stream. Hope you're doing well. Apologies for being a little bit late and a little bit later on in the morning than I usually am. Had football last night and I can't lie, I'm absolutely exhausted, but we are here to answer any of your questions and go through my current team selection, as it feels like I'm one of the only managers in the world right now, in content world for FPL, that's not activating their wildcard. So I want to go through the reasons why I'm not doing it, talk you through the implications that might come today if we do get any sort of Man City early team news, and of course a little bit of an idea on what my team is going to look like in future game weeks, because that's really important in a week where other people are wildcarding. It's really important that if you are going to make a free transfer, it isn't just focusing on one game week in isolation. It actually tries to improve your team. We're going to cover that off in the section where we look at my team, because I could easily make a couple of very, very easy moves. For example, I could do something like Diogo Jota to a Buemo. I could do something like a Watkins to a Havertz, for example. But it doesn't actually improve my overall team in the upcoming game weeks. But the main thing here is, of course, making sure that we're answering your questions right now. So please, if you haven't already, get your questions in the chat. I'll be sure to answer them over the next hour or so on this stream. I do apologise. I've got a little bit of hiccup. So if you hear me stopping at talk at one point, then it's just because I have got hiccups and I'm trying to suppress them right now by chugging water every other hour. So thanks so much for being here. Rio, hope you're doing well, my friend. Cheekster, as always, and more technique. Adam, my friend. Rayal, morning, mate. And Guaitam is saying, good morning, Nacho, and asking a question. So perfect. So please do get these questions in the chat and we will be going through them and answering all of those. Just to give you a bit of an update in terms of Raya, David Raya, we have no idea right now whether he's going to be available or not, but what I would say is that he hasn't been pictured in training. He hasn't been pictured in training, which does mean that we're in a bit of a position for those that have wildcarded where you don't actually know what to do. If I was wildcarding right now, I probably would not put David Raya in my team, just because we know that the team travelled to the hotel and he wasn't pictured at the hotel with the rest of the team. Could he arrive late? Absolutely. But at the same time, it just stinks a little bit that he might not be available for them this game week. So I probably would just go without David Raya, which of course is not an ideal situation because I don't also love the combination of Saliba and Gabriel. So just want to give you a quick update on David Raya, because of course that's quite an important prospect right now, doing that in your teams. So just making sure I've got everything set up. Let's just fly through some of the early questions and then we'll get into my team, because as I mentioned, I'm not looking to wildcard. If I was going to wildcard, I should have done it days and days ago. So I just want to go through my thought process right now. And also I really want to know in the chat, let's get a poll up right now. Have you activated your wildcard? Yes, no. And I want to do it like used in previous game week, because some people use it in game week 4, so that's slightly a different thing. So let me know in the poll right now, what is your current chip strategy? Have you activated your wildcard this week? Have you not? Or have you used it in a previous game week? So for example, in game week 4. So just want to go through some of the questions in a minute. And I know there was one at the top. I'm not sure if it's been deleted or it's being covered. So I do apologize. Please, if I miss your first question, let me know. Put it back in the chat and I will make sure to answer it. But I think it might have disappeared. So Guatam saying, morning Nacho, Flecken to Pickford on a wild card. Now, I think both are fine. Nothing exciting. Right now, I personally would lean towards Flecken. The main reason being is I also like Mikalenko at 4.3 million, offering brilliant value. So I think I'd actually go for Flecken. And then if you want a piece of the Everton defence, maybe look to get someone like a Mikalenko in your team. Raw is asking, is Rico Lewis playing? Right now, we don't know. Now, of course, Man City are the early team kickoff. So that is a big thing, because we've already had Liverpool early team news in previous game weeks. And we've also had it with Man City in the shape of Erling Haaland. So while I don't know if we're guaranteed going to get any news on Rico Lewis, I think if you haven't made a transfer right now or you're building wildcard teams, I'd probably build one with and without Rico Lewis in the prospect that we might get some information. If we don't get any news regarding Rico Lewis, I still think he is a good option. Now, we need to remember, he's always going to be a rotation risk, even if he is very important to this Man City team, and I think he will become it even more. I do think with Kyle Walker, I think he's atrocious, Kyle Walker, I'm going to say it, over the last 18 months. But he obviously does have attributes that the other players literally cannot do. His straight line running helps him in counter-attack phases. That's literally the only reason he plays. So Rico Lewis will always remain a rotation risk. But I do feel like if I was wildcarding right now at 4.7 million, I think it's too much of an opportunity to pass up on. So I think I would just bring him in, knowing that if he does just not get the minutes that we were thinking he would get, you could simply just use one of your free transfers to take him out later down the line. I think the fixtures are there, though, for him to be a great option. Charlie's asking, hi Nacho, I've got 2 free transfers. I've got Ahmad starting with Muniz on the bench. Should I transfer him out or roll his transfer? Would you recommend putting it? So with Amad Diallo right now, it seems like he's playing well. I don't expect him to come out of the team, but also you know that if he starts, he probably is one of those players that easily could come off on the 60th, 70th minute. I don't think it's definitely a transfer that you need to make. The one thing I will say about it is look at your team over the next few weeks. If you're in a position where you think actually doing something like Muniz to a Chris Wood or a Calvert-Lewin might actually improve your team, that would be the priority transfer for me rather than selling someone like Amad Diallo. Tor, hope you're doing well, mate. Vikram, morning. Streambo saying, what do I think about Martinelli? For me, I just haven't seen enough right now to justify putting him in the team, and especially with people like Raheem Sterling and Leandro Trossard, who could easily play on that left-hand side. I would just want to see a glimmer of hope with Martinelli. He's doing okay, but literally not an FPL option right now. I just don't see how we can select him over the other mid-price midfielders in the game. He could emerge as the best pick over the next couple of weeks, and you can make that punt. And if you have that gut feeling, please do it. But for me, I just always want to see a little bit of underlying numbers and also just the eye test before I actually buy a player. So keep putting your questions in the chat, please, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to get through them. I just want to put up my team a minute, just to give you a bit of an update. And also, if you can, please do vote in the poll. About 90 votes in the poll. If we can get that to 100, 150 over the course of the stream, that'll be fantastic. Just to get an idea on what managers are doing. 52% are saying they are using the wildcard this week. 33% are saying they are not. And 15% used it in a previous game week. We're also going to be putting some captaincy polls up as well to get an idea on what direction managers are going in. Because I really do think it is a tough week this week for activating your captaincy, and it might be the difference between a green and a red arrow. It really feels very close this week in terms of what could happen. And as always, if you're enjoying the stream, please do consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. That is the main thing. I always appreciate every single one of you when you do hit that subscribe button. It means the world. So coming into my current team, and I'm going to need you guys more than ever right now. So I can't lie, probably quite possibly the worst week ever to have a game week 6 where the wildcard's so important. You really do need to put your effort and your mind on FPL. And you know, we just have one of those weeks at work where it's just ridiculously busy. Your evenings are rammed. It's been one of those weeks for me, I can't lie. So even though I've been engaged with FPL, of course, I've been doing daily content and all that sort of stuff, I've also been very busy in just my personal life. So I haven't really had the best opportunity to prepare myself for a wildcard. Now, as you can see on screens, people with this team have actually wildcarded. I've seen it already. But this season, what I'm trying to do is separate myself from what the rest of the community is doing. Now, I don't mean that as in if people are doing this, I have to do this to be different. Absolutely not. It's far from that. What I'm trying to do this season is go into it with a little bit of an idea that if I wasn't in the content game and I didn't know exactly what all other content creators were doing, what would I actually do with this team? Because when you talk to people who don't watch any content, they're like, what? People are wildcarding this week. Didn't even know that. So I want to come into this season with a bit more of a different lens. And when I look at this team right now, and I take away the fact that loads of managers have activated their wildcard, do I think this team needs a wildcard? I'm going to be honest, the answer is no. I think the answer is no. Henderson, of course, is not a great option away against Everton, but am I desperate to bring in any other goalkeeper now that Raya is a massive doubt going into the weekend? Absolutely not. Double Liverpool defence. Now, of course, I would love to bring in someone like a Gabriel, but Wolves, with the virus breakout that they had in their camp, with the form that they're in right now, do I think double Liverpool defence is a bad move? Absolutely not. Do I feel like a free transfer of Robertson to Gabriel is worth it? In my eyes, I just really don't think it is. Now, of course, Gabriel can continue his goal scoring run, scores another goal from set pieces, and is on his way for 20 goals this season. But I don't think that is going to continue each and every week. It could easily happen this weekend, and if you don't own him, you are taking that risk. But could Robertson whip in a corner, get an assist, and then bag another assist later on in the game? 100%. So I do think Robertson is just a good option that doesn't need sideways moving to a Gabriel. Obviously, the problem with this team right now, you can see on your screens, it is very, very thin. All of my bench don't play or are massive rotation risks. And I would argue that Fulham away against Nottingham Forest is not a good fixture this week. I know Fulham have been impressive, but it doesn't feel great going into this game with double Fulham at my disposal. Even someone like an Eze. I'm going to keep Eze. I'm going to put it out there. He has been definitely on my mind to move towards a Brian Mbeumo. But Eze's numbers have been fantastic. I think we're all coming to the conclusion that Everton will improve because of the return of Jared Branthwaite. But until I actually see it, I'm not just going to jump to the gun and say, now Everton are prime AC Milan and they're going to keep out Crystal Palace. I don't think that at all. So I think this team doesn't need a wild card. As I mentioned, I should have done it at the start of the week if it needed it. And in terms of Diogo Jota, previously this was the most important transfer in my team to get rid of him. But as I mentioned, because he played 59 minutes midweek and Darwin Núñez played the full 90, I actually expect Diogo Jota to start. Now, of course, if you have that gut feeling that he isn't going to start, then this is the most obvious transfer in the world. Diogo Jota to Brian Mbeumo and fix the team. But I also think with FPL sometimes, while that seems like a very, very easy move, if I'm not going to be wildcarding this week or in game week 7, we need to actually have a bit more of a long-term perspective on the team. And what I'm going to show you in a minute is that if I do make the Jota to Mbeumo move, while it probably is better over the next 2 weeks, it doesn't actually improve my team in general because game week 7, put it nicely, is an absolute horror show. And there's actually a couple of transfers that I could make either this week or rolling the transfer into game week 7 with 2 that really would improve the balance of this team as opposed to just trying to bring in the best player for that game week in isolation. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this team needs a wild card? As I mentioned, I am now of the opinion that it does not. I think I'm of the opinion that because a lot of content creators are doing it, it is putting thoughts in my mind that I should be doing it. But the one other thing I want to say before we come back into the chat and I go through some of the questions is that this season is completely unique to any other. The reason why I'm saying that is because when in times gone by, people wildcarded. They would wildcard, and then in the following week, they would come back to one free transfer because, of course, it would eliminate any transfers saved in your bank. This season, different. If you were, and I've seen a lot of managers have 3 or 4 free transfers available to them, and you've activated your wildcard, in game week 7, you will return to 3 or 4 free transfers, whatever you've ended up rolling into. And that's very different this season because if I wildcard, go to the exact same team because you've probably seen most managers are going for the exact same template team. How do I actually gain an edge on those managers if they've all wildcarded the exact same team as me, but they also have 3 or 4 transfers in the bank to improve that team each and every week that's required? And we need to remember as well that a wildcard, when you do build it, is of the mindset of long term. So you're actually building a team thinking, I don't need to make any changes to this team unless injuries arise. And with only 1 free transfer available to myself, I just don't think I'm ever going to gain ground on those managers that are ranked in the top 100k if I follow the exact same steps. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not doing that to be different at all, but I'm just trying to have a bit more of a perspective that this team does not need a wild card. I do not need to do it because others are doing it. And actually, this could be a slight edge in game week 6. But it's also worth noting, if I walk away with 100,000 green arrow, that is probably the best case scenario. But it could easily be a 2 million red arrow. That is honestly the way I think it is going to be this week. If I get a green arrow, it's a miracle. If I get a 2 million red arrow, I would not be surprised at all. So let's get back into the chat. I rambled on about my team. Right now, I'm looking to actually roll the transfer, but I'm going to go into the planner in a minute and go through my team over the next 3 weeks, just to show you why I think rolling the transfer might actually be the most optimal move for my team. I'm going to get rid of the poll now because 150 votes have been done. I think that's a good sample size. 54% are activated their wildcard this week. 35% have said no, and 11% have done it in a previous week, which most likely was in game week 4, I think. Before we get into the chat, I do just want to put in one more poll because, of course, as you can see with my team, the captain is on Erling Haaland. I still think that's the best pick for my team, even though Bukayo Saka is at home against Leicester, which is a fantastic fixture. I feel like if Man City are going to win, everything funnels through Erling Haaland. Whereas if Arsenal were to win 3-0, would I be surprised if the goals and the assists were spread out amongst the rest of the team? I wouldn't be surprised at all. So for that reason, I currently have the captaincy on Erling Haaland. But if I had Mo Salah, that would be a very, very tempting captaincy as well. So just going to put in the chat here, who is your Game Week 6 El Capitano? So we have got Erling Haaland, of course, is going to be a top pick. Saka is going to be a top pick. Mo Salah is going to be a top pick. And if you have anyone else, please do select the other option. And I've just put in brackets comment. Please just let me know in the comment section who you have gone for. I'm just going to scroll back up because I know that I've been rambling on a little bit with my team. And I do want to try and get through some of the questions that you guys have been asking, because that is the whole point of it right now. So, Guaitom's saying, is Semenyo worth it as a punt for 2 game weeks, or is he a season-long hold? Bournemouth have amassed high XG only in 2 games, so is everyone overreacting? Okay, so that is a brilliant point. So what we need to do here is take a look at the fixtures for Bournemouth in the longer-term perspective. So Bournemouth right now are here. Game week 6 and 7 is fantastic, but game week 8 at home against Arsenal, fine. They definitely could score against them, but it's not ideal. Then away against Villa. Again, I don't love that. Then at home against Man City in game week 10, followed by what will always be a tough game away against Brentford. So I think if you're bringing in Semenyo right now, I wouldn't be bringing him in as part of a free transfer unless you were looking to wildcard in game week 8. Then I really do like him as maybe a 2-game week punt in your teams. But if I was wildcarding right now, I still think Semenyo is a good option because you're most likely going to have him in as a rotating midfielder with either a 4th midfielder or your 3rd forward. And I think in that case, it's absolutely fine for the next 2 weeks. And as I mentioned, what you easily can do is in game weeks 8 and 9, rotate him in and out with certain players. So don't mind Semenyo at all. Is he being slightly overhyped? I probably would say yes, but I think he is still a good option for your teams. Tor saying it's way too early. I agree at times. I'm wildcarding to keep him rare, looking long term. Yeah, absolutely fine. My only issue is if long term becomes 2 weeks and you've got a 4 million goalkeeper who doesn't play, that's 2 weeks in a row of 10 men in your team, which is not ideal. Rare did not travel to the hotel. That is correct. More to make, keep up the good work, lovely content. Thank you, Ricardo, very much. Thoughts on selling Salah to Trent and use the leftover money to upgrade João Pedro? You have to let me know your thoughts on that, mate, because I don't know who you're selling Salah for, because you obviously can't do Salah down to Trent because they play in different positions. Mohammed saying, hi bruv, need update on Jota if he is starting. Unfortunately, I do not think we're going to get any news on Liverpool because they are the 5:30 kickoff. I will be astonished if that does happen. Now, I'm looking at a list that I have on Twitter, which is basically my go-to. It's the one that, if I want to take a look at team leaks, there is all these accounts basically put together. So, for me, I think right now with Jota, we're not going to hear whether he starts or not. I'm going to put it out there. It's just a 5:30 kickoff. Very unlikely. Bench Lewis or Pau Torres. Now, with Aston Villa's fixture away against Ipswich, very difficult to not start him. So I probably would lean towards Pau Torres. But if we do get the leak that Rico Lewis is starting, you know that he will get into advanced positions. I think the ceiling is a lot higher than that of Rico Lewis. I think if he was to get an attack and return, I wouldn't be shocked. Whereas Pau Torres probably is a clean sheet 6-pointer. Keep saying no wildcard, keep the faith. That is what I'm hopefully doing this week. Should you go for Chelsea's 4.5 million goalkeeper Sanchez? So I think he's now 4.6 million. Take a look at the fixtures for Chelsea. As you can see, they're not even on the list here. So I just need to scroll down for you guys. Let me get it up. So Chelsea are actually second bottom in terms of fixtures over the next 6 game weeks. Now, they're not too bad for the next 2, but could Brighton score? 100%. And could Nottingham Forest score? Definitely, with their wingers in the team. Then Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, Arsenal. The one thing I will say is this. We know that goalkeepers who are cheap and play for teams that do concede shot volume are the ones that can get big double-digit returns. And it's a reason why I wasn't as bullish on David Raya coming into this wildcard territory. Because Leicester at home, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away are fantastic fixtures for clean sheets. And I do think that Raya will accumulate them if he does start for Arsenal. But also you want the goalkeeper that has the potential for double-digit returns. And Raya's have come basically against teams that are actually attacking, good, or when they went down to 10 men where he's able to make save points. I don't think that's going to happen in these fixtures. It'll be very straightforward victories for Arsenal, which means that I can't see the goalkeeper getting more than 6 points with that clean sheet. Whereas someone like a Sanchez might actually rack up some points because Chelsea still will concede shots at times. And then they come into the trickier run where clean sheets aren't ideal, but I do think there are opportunities there for accumulating save points and therefore bonus points in the team. So I'm just making sure I've not missed anything in terms of early team news. But again, it's an hour and a half to the deadline. I'd be very surprised if there's been anything put out right now. It'd be really, really surprising and a lot earlier than usual. Start DCL or Rodgers. I think if you have Calvert-Lewin, I think you do have to start him. That is what I probably would do. If you have him, I would start him. Everton's fixture is, I wouldn't say it's like the best fixture in the world that they do have this week at home against Crystal Palace, but Palace has shown that they aren't necessarily all that defensively. So I would definitely be starting Calvert-Lewin if you do have him, and I think he'll be a very popular pick on those wildcards as well. Just checking to see if there's any news that I'm missing, but I don't think so. Okay. Just going to do some quick fire questions to try and get through them. So, who to start, Aina or Konate? I think if you own Konate, I still would go for Konate. Saliba or Vardial, I prefer Gabriel as your Arsenal pick. And then I really do like Vardial as a Man City long-term pick. Robertson or Konate, if you have the funds, Robertson. But I actually do think Konate is a pretty locked-in player. The only thing I will say is with the Champions League, we always know that there could be rotation. And if Liverpool come into a situation where they feel like they could play Quansah in a league game and Konate in a Champions League game, that isn't out of the realms of possibility. Diaz or Maddison, I think Maddison's getting a lot of love right now, but I still think it is Luis Diaz while those numbers are still so damn good. Milan's saying, should I start Jota? I think Jota is either a start or a sell. There's no world where you bench Jota in your teams. For example, for me, if we were to get an early leak that Liverpool's Diogo Jota was actually benched, I'd sell him for Brian Mbeumo in a heartbeat. But I'm hoping that he does start so that I actually get rewarded a little bit. And I'm going to put it out there. If I keep Diogo Jota, I am taking all the risk. And if you're doing the same and keeping Diogo Jota, please, 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 do not be the FPL manager that goes, oh my God, I can't believe Jota's bench. I'm so unlucky. You know the risk that you are taking with Diogo Jota. Even though my logic is that he came off early in the EFL Cup, which will equal a start, I also know that might be a bit of a flawed logic and it might not actually come to fruition. So we have to remember that we're taking a massive risk with Diogo Jota's minutes this weekend. Should I keep Smith Rowe? He's essentially on my bench, or get Dibbling for 4.5 and use the extra cash later? Roger, it's going to be all about what does that extra cash actually improve in your team. That is kind of the answer to that one. So it's very difficult for me to come to a easy answer on that one. Jonas saying my wildcard team is Flecken, Ward, Trent, Gabriel, Twanzebe, Gehi, Lewis. I don't love Gehi. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like the Crystal Palace fixtures at all for him to be an investment in your team. Sorry, my dog just done something weird. Saka, Mbeumo, Diaz, Semenyo, Rodgers. Yes, very template, but not bad at all. Haaland, Wood, Haaland. Yeah, so Gehi for me would be the massive change. You've obviously got the Trent and Gabriel coverage. You've got Lewis. I would then actually look to get Gehi to a Aina or somebody like a Mikalenko if you want a piece of the Everton defence. Last saying, who would you bench? Jota, Hudson-Odoi or Son? If you own Son, you just don't bench him. I think he either starts or he gets 0 minutes today in their fixture tomorrow, And again, if you're keeping Jota, I think you have to start him because if you bench him and he starts, you only have yourself to blame. So of that, I think you have to bench Hudson-Odoi controversially. Nathan, hope you're well, mate. Okay, so keep putting your questions in, guys. I'm going to keep getting to them as always. As you can tell, I'm trying to get through them as quick as I can. But what I want to do, because a lot of people are probably wondering, Nacho, get your wildcard active, your team's dead. Well, as I mentioned, I want to keep my team because I do think it's going to be best for my team. I just want to show you what I plan on doing with my team if I were to roll the transfer, because that is currently what I am debating. Now, obviously, there are big issues with the team this week in terms of no exposure to Arsenal. So when we just look at game week 6 in isolation, this is a problem because I currently don't have any Arsenal coverage, and I can easily get it if I wanted to bring in someone like a Gabriel for Robertson. But as I mentioned, could Liverpool keep a clean sheet against Wolves? 100%. So I actually like the double Liverpool defence as a bit of a differential. Villa, I already have a double up, which is great. Bournemouth at home against Southampton, that is a bit of a worry because managers will have Semenyo, and I do not have that coverage. So, of course, that is an issue. And this is a concern. Bryan Mbeumo at home against West Ham could be a decent haul. But again, could West Ham put up a resolute performance? Not based on what we saw against Chelsea, but they do have the players to be able to do it. So I think it's a great fixture for Mbeumo, but I'm not desperate. Chelsea at home against Brighton. Good fixture there for Chelsea. And of course, if you don't have Cole Palmer, it's a little bit worrying. Everton's Calvert-Lewin could definitely do well here. So what I'm trying to say is with my team, I'm missing a lot of good players, but I need to think about my team longer term. So coming into game week 7, this is where the big problem is. This is where we have huge issues because we've got double Fulham away against Man City. We've got Rodgers at home against Man United, which isn't terrible. We've got double Liverpool defence away against Crystal Palace, who at any day could score. I still back their offence for the likes of Eze, Mateta and Nketiah. So this isn't an ideal week at all. So that is why in game week 6, if I was to do Jota to Bryan Mbeumo, I've used one of my free transfers. I'm going to come into this week with Madron Jota as Mbeumo, but the rest of the team's still a nightmare with only one free transfer available. So that's why I'm planning to hold Jota, because even though it's a slight risk, I do personally feel like Jota could outscore Mbeumo if he plays 70 minutes, and I'm just banking that situation happens. So coming into game week 7, this of course is where some situations arise. Now, if we do get the understanding that Rico Lewis is a starter for Man City, then an obvious move for my team would be to get rid of Lewis Hall and bring in Rico Lewis. Now, of course, price changes need to be kind to me, but that would be the obvious move. And it's worth noting, going into game week 6, if we are of the assumption that Rico Lewis actually is just a starter for Man City going forward, and we get the leak that he's starting today, I actually could just pull the trigger on Lewis Hall to Rico Lewis as part of my game week 6 transfer in preparation for him in game week 7. So I don't actually rule out a transfer happening before the deadline today. But one of those transfers then just improves my defence in general and gets rid of a massive rotation risk in the shape of Lewis Hall. Now, of course, after that, we have problems with the team because I have one more free transfer available. And, of course, we have Smith Rowe still playing away against Man City and Muniz still playing away against Man City himself. So one move that I could do, and it's all about what does this team require. Jota could continue to be a concern in the team. So selling him for a Bryan Mbeumo doesn't feel that good because you're bringing him in off the back of the West Ham game. But if we were to see Jota rotated and Mbeumo have a fantastic game week 6, the other move that I could do is Jota to Mbeumo, but it doesn't fix the Smith Rowe problem in this team, which is the real concern. But does it mean I want to sell Smith Rowe? After Man City, he actually has an okay run of fixtures. So maybe just grin and bearing it in game week 7 is what I do. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but what I have come to the conclusion of is game week 7 is a problem. Meaning, if I make a transfer, it has to be for the good of the team, not for the good of one particular player like a Bryan Mbeumo. So for that reason, right now, that is why I'm rolling my transfer, and hopefully it makes a little bit of sense to people that are watching right now. So guys, make sure you're voting in the poll. We've had 170 votes. I'll take it down when we hit 200 because that'll be a good enough sample size for it. But right now, we have got Erling Haaland at 63%, Saka at 16%, Salah at 15%, and 6% are going for another option. Tom Box is saying, possible questions. Would you bring in Neto in goal for Raya from Wildcard next week? No, Neto will be out of that team as quick as he can. Or play 10 and roll transfer for after Wildcard. I wouldn't be buying Neto. If you're wildcarding next week, the problem is you can roll transfers through wildcards. So it feels like a very meh transfer to make. I just don't think it's worth it. Palmer, Saka absolutely are great picks for your FPL team. Daniel, hi Nacho. Havertz potentially out of position or Solanke on wildcard? Daniel, right now I am actually leaning towards Kai Havertz just because of the potential injury to David Raya. Very difficult to get to double Arsenal defence, so I really do think Kai Havertz is a fantastic option this week. Salah and Madueke or Saka and Diaz? I prefer Saka and Diaz just because I really don't like Madueke as a pick. Should I do Isak to Solanke or Havertz? If I go for Havertz, I won't be able to do Salah to Saka next week. I think Solanke long-term is actually a really good pick, but for the next few weeks, it absolutely would be Havertz. The thing about it is, are you even going to want to sell Mo Salah in the following game week? Maybe, but I wouldn't be making a move right now thinking, oh my God, I have to keep. If I go for Havertz, I won't be able to do Salah to Saka next week. I don't really get why you can't do it next week because you're downgrading Salah to Saka, mate. Jota keep or sell, I'm personally keeping. Big differential week. Everyone has the same wildcard team, 100%. Again, I don't think that's a bad thing. Wildcard is template for a reason because they are the best players in the game for this specific game week and beyond. But do I think they are all essential players? The answer is no. I'm going to be honest. Andrew, I've wildcarded but retained João Pedro. Yes, I know he's out, but has built value, and I wouldn't have started him this week and probably next as well. Andrew, that's fair. Hopefully it does pay off for you, mate. He will be back in that Brighton team when he is fit, though. Omar saying, on a wildcard, should I avoid Raya for now and transfer him back in if he's fit? Yeah, I think the general consensus now is that with David Raya not travelling to the hotel, that's a concern. It's a big red flag, and for that reason, I do feel like going with that David Raya is probably the route to go for, meaning that I probably would go for Kai Havertz up front. Just take a look here to see if we are getting any news right now. I can't see anything. No news right now, and I'll be very surprised if we do get any news regarding certain players. No, I can't see anything. Is it worth taking a -4 to take out Raya just for this game week and then who? I don't love it. Because Raya can be back the following week and then you're just going to want Raya in your team. Havertz, people are captaining. That's good. I like that. Southampton defence, the team to attack. Yes, I do agree. Southampton defensively are woeful. I personally would not put the triple captaincy on a player this week. No. But if you are going to do it, go with your gut feel. You got to go with your gut feel. Should I put the captaincy on Havertz or Haaland? Leaning towards Haaland, but I fancy... Yeah, so I personally prefer Haaland because I just feel like Man City, they score... Haaland's going to be at the heart of it, and you always know what you're getting with him. But I do appreciate that the fixture is phenomenal for Arsenal, and it could easily be a big haul in that game. Start Lewis or Mikalenko. Obviously, based on the fixture, I do prefer Mikalenko, but I think if you're bringing in Lewis, you've got to start him if we get the leak that he is starting. Jota from Wemo, Gareth, I think it is a great move. But with my team in particular, going into game week 7, it does not help my team in the slightest. Yes, it might get rid of Jota because he's a rotation risk, but my team's in a bit of problems in game week 7. And just like to give you an example of my team. So I just want to show you if I was to do the Jota to a Mbeumo move, how I still have problems. So again, some people here might be thinking that Jota is a massive minutes risk this week, and he absolutely probably is. But I'm of the opinion that he will start. No news, just I think he will start. And 17 minutes for Jota for me, I actually don't mind that at all. Away against Wolves, who have of course had the virus outbreak in the camp. But hypothetically speaking, if I was to do the Jota to Mbeumo move, it looks great this week at home against West Ham. But then the following week, in game week 7, I would have used one of my precious free transfers. So I only have one transfer left, 0.6 million in the bank. And coming into game week 7, yes, I've got Mbeumo at home against Wolves, which is great. But is my team any better? I still got double Fulham away against Man City with only one free transfer available. We've got Eze at home against Liverpool. I've got double Liverpool defence away against Palace. I've got Rodgers at home against Man United. Really not an ideal position to be in, especially with a bench that really don't play and are massive minutes risks. So even Mbeumo is a great pick. If I can get Jota starting in game week 6, I think that's ideal. And then coming into game week 7, we just reassess the situation. If then in game week 7, we realise that Rico Lewis is essential and Mbeumo is essential, I could just use my 2 free transfers to bring him in game week 7 and slightly improve the team. I just don't think for this week it is necessary, because all it takes is an Mbeumo injury. I brought him for 1 week and then my team's in tatters, and I just don't really think it is the right move for my team. But let me know your thoughts, guys. I would love to know. Savio or Gundogan? I actually prefer Savio if you're going to go there. Havertz or Watkins? I think I would go for Havertz over Watkins. But I wouldn't sell Watkins for Havertz. It's kind of the way I would look at it. I think if you have Watkins, happy days, keep him. But if you were wildcarding right now, I think just because of the price difference, I would lean towards a Havertz pick, yes. Triple Captain Haaland, I do not mind it if you want to go there at all. Haaland or Saka captain, I still prefer Haaland, but I get it. The fixture's fantastic for Saka. It could be a brilliant game, but I would lean more towards Haaland myself. What do you think about Salah plus Luis Diaz? Yes, brilliant differential this week, because a lot of people are obviously not going for, not going for Mo Salah, which is quite surprising actually, because in the opening few weeks we were talking about how Mo Salah is one of the most essential players in the game, and now people are moving away from him. Very interesting how narratives do change. Semenyo or Rodgers, who should start? If you have Semenyo, you absolutely have to start him this week. The fixture for Bournemouth at home against Southampton is as good as it gets, so you have to start him that week. And it's probably one of the players that I really am a little bit fearful of this week. So one of the moves that I could do, for example, if I'm a little bit concerned about Smith Rowe, is actually do Smith Rowe to Semenyo in my team. That would work. It gets him in for the Southampton game, which is obviously a brilliant game. Sorry, I've put it in the wrong section. So one move that I could do is Smith Rowe out for... Wow, Semenyo's not even in the top. We talk... Oh, there he is. There he is. So one move that I could do actually this week that would improve the overall squad is Smith Rowe out for Semenyo, which is by far a better fixture than Smith Rowe away against Nottingham Forest. And then in game week 7, I would have Semenyo away against Leicester, which is a good fixture. And I'll still have 1 free transfer available with a little bit more cash in the bank. And what I could then do is Lewis Hall out for someone, as I mentioned, like Rico Lewis, if we were to find out that Lewis is just a pretty much essential player in the game. And I don't have the funds to do that. So that is why that move is not on the cards. So I could get rid of Robinson and keep the team very light. But that, of course, is a real problem when we are bringing in a rotation risk like Lewis. So I don't love that move, to be honest with you. Jamie saying, João Pedro and Jota to Wood and Eze for a -4. Would have to play Greaves if not. Okay, so Pedro's obviously out. I think Jota starts, but I don't actually know. You're bringing in Eze. I don't know if it's the time to bring in Eze. If it was in Mbeumo, then I would love it. Let me know if you can bring in Mbeumo. If it is, I like the move. If not, I don't love it. No, I do not think Havertz will play deep. I do personally think that with Partey, with Rice, Trossard can play in the 10. I think Havertz will remain up front. I'm saying, will I be posting leaks? I can't decide whether Flecken and Aina are a good combo. I actually don't get any leaks. I just keep an eye on Twitter. So I really would recommend going on Twitter and staying in the loop. I won't be going up until the deadline. I do apologise. So please do keep in the loop on Twitter. The accounts that are really good are things like Lazy FPL. Very, very good. And also just going for somebody who is a top content creator like Andy, Let's Talk FPL. If we are going to get some news, he is one of those that absolutely will just share it on Twitter. So that's a brilliant pick as well if you want to stay in the loop with team leaks. And again, guys, if you're enjoying the content, always massively appreciated if you can hit that subscribe button. It means the world. Takes 2 seconds, but if it's not providing any value, no hard feelings whatsoever. I appreciate that. There are a lot of good content creators out there. And also, I think you might want to stick around just because I'm one of the few people that isn't wildcarding this week. Not because I want to be different, because I just don't think it is the right move for my own team. So it might be nice to come back next week and just laugh at how big this red arrow is going to be. I would do the same if I was following somebody. So please do, if you are enjoying it, smash that subscribe button. It always means the world, and I really do appreciate you guys more than you know. I do apologise, it's a little bit quieter this stream just because I had football last night and I was shouting all game at the ref, at the players, and I'm a little bit hoarse this stream. Usually I play on a Saturday, so I'm a little bit more fresh, but coming in late, I got home about 11 p.m, so it was a bit of a late one, and yeah, I'm struggling now, but hopefully we are still carrying the stream today, which is the most important thing. I see we got a super chat from Charlie, which is, Charlie, firstly, thank you so much, massively appreciated as always. I really do appreciate those little things. That is awesome, mate. So Charlie's asking, hey Nacho, hope your morning's been good. It's been fantastic, mate. Thank you. Hope yours is as well. Would you start Concert or Aina this week? Keep up the authentic content, mate. Charlie, really do appreciate you, my friend. And are you from New Zealand? Is that? That's awesome if it is. So, Charlie, would I start Concert or Aina this week? So, with the fixtures that we do have, obviously, Aina at home against Fulham, and we need to remember that Nottingham Forest have been good this season defensively. So, what I want to do for you is just bring up some of the underlying numbers as a team, firstly, to understand which team has been better. So hopefully you can see this on your screens right now. This is based on teams, and we're going to do it. All teams have played the same game, so we don't need to do it per 90 minutes. So we're going to go into the defending section right now. And if we come into expected, this one here, expected goals conceded, we are both looking at Aston Villa and we are looking at Nottingham Forest. So in terms of expected goals conceded, we can see here Nottingham Forest are actually doing really well in the opening 5 games. 5.47 expected goals conceded. Aston Villa, on the other hand, are here at 6.39. So very, very similar between the two. Not too much in it. Now, in terms of the fixture in isolation that they do have, obviously Aston Villa away against Ipswich, I'd probably argue is a good fixture. And of course, then we have Nottingham Forest at home against Fulham. I probably would just lean towards Concert. I would just lean towards Concert because I think Fulham have got a little bit more to their game in terms of offensive creativity. But also I would argue that Aston Villa away against Ipswich is a tricky game. But all in all, I probably would just say I would just go for Concert away against Ipswich. So thank you so much for Super Chat, mate. And I really hope you have a fantastic game week this week. SSA and Trossard has a red, though. Trossard actually served his one-match game ban in the Carabao Cup. So I think he's now available for the Premier League. Who are your top defences to target around the 4.5 million price point? Cheers. Yeah, so if we take a look at the defenders in general, it's easier for a visualization perspective just to get them up. So at 4.5 million in general, Aina is probably the go-to in terms of the defensive team that we've seen so far, and in terms of actually just the fixtures are good. I think he's a great option, Aina. Now, the ones that people are going for in terms of a wild card, Colwell's getting a little bit of love. I don't love it personally. I'm going to put it out there. I don't love Colwell as a pick. Concert will always remain a good pick. I think Villa are good, even though defensively they haven't kept a clean sheet this season, which isn't ideal. But I do think there are good clean sheet fixtures here, potentially at home against Bournemouth. But we need to remember, of course, they are having the Champions League to deal with, which is going to be a big factor for them. Collins is one that's going under the radar a little bit. Now, not a fun pick, but these fixtures here are very good long term. And I do think if you just want a player in for that Brentford coverage, I think Nathan Collins is actually a really good pick for your team. So I do like Nathan Collins 100%. Outside of that, bit of a cheaper option at 4.3 million is going to include Mykolenko. Now, Mykolenko is one that is probably not that loved because obviously he is at Everton, but 4.3 million for a guy that 100% will start now, it sounds like, because he's recovered from illness. Fixtures long term are really good. Offers a little bit of attacking potential, which I do like. Last season, 2 goals, 1 assist. Nothing incredible, let's be real. But I do think Mykolenko is a bit of a differential pick as well at 4.3 million. So let me know your favourite in the chat. I'll be super interested to know. I think Mykolenko is interesting. And of course, if you get to Rico Lewis and we get the news that he's starting, that feels like a really good pick as well. David, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. So can you please wish my friend... Now, firstly, David, I'm going to say I really do appreciate this the super chat. Massively appreciate it. So is it Shashank? Is it Shashank? I think that's it. A belated happy birthday and congratulations to him on his new promotion. We're both fans of the channel. Your videos helps a lot. Thank you. David, really do appreciate it, my friend. And a belated happy birthday to Shashank. Hope you have an amazing day. And congratulations on the new promotion as well. That is awesome news. I'd be interested to know what you guys do work-wise. So no, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. And Shashank, have an amazing day, my friend. You've probably already had it, but have a great weekend as well. So David, thanks so much for super chat, mate. Really do appreciate that. And have a great game week as well. Have a great game week. More importantly, that is the big thing. Birthday second, game week first. That is the most important thing. David, perfect pronunciation. David, I'm not going to lie. If you watch this channel enough, you'll know that I do butcher so many professional footballers' names. I could probably have a highlight reel of it. So I'm glad that I got these ones out. Yes, shout out to Shashank, top guy, and David, a top bloke as well. Rare plus Solanke or Flecken plus Watkins. So it would be an obvious one for me right now. Raya plus Solanke, but of course with the doubts to Raya going into this weekend, it's difficult to put Raya into your team. So I'd actually answer the question by saying Flecken plus Solanke. That's actually the combination that I would go going into this week. Now guys, give me 2 seconds. I'm still going to appear. I'm just having a bit of a weird thing with my camera, so I'm just going to turn it off for 2 seconds and I'm going to turn it back on. So you'll still hear me, but I'm just going to try and just reset it. Give me 30 seconds. I'll still be here. I'll just be like a voice as opposed to anything else. So let me just try this for 2 seconds. I do apologize, guys. Anyone that's just jumped in, I am still here. I'm just trying to sort out my camera a minute. So I think it's a little bit weird. Okay, guys, I am here. I'm just a floating voice. I kind of feel like Wizard of Oz or something right now. Hopefully, we're getting this sorted. Okay. I think we're back. Hello, by the way. Hello. That was probably a bit creepy for anyone that's just come in the chat. I think we are sorted now. I had a bit of a weird one on my end where it was coming up saying it was a bit dodgy. So hopefully that has resetted it a little bit if we needed it too. So guys, just to give you a bit of an update on everything, I'm probably going for another 5 minutes, so I do apologise. Anyone that's a regular knows that I do have a TikTok live stream that I need to do as well prior to the deadline. So just want to give you a bit of an update on my team. So for anyone that's new, I do apologise if you sat through it already. So this is my team. Not going to wildcard. I just don't feel that it is desperate for a wildcard this week. So I'm happy with this team. I've spoken about it. I don't think I want to make a transfer either because game week 7 just looks horrific. Jota to Mbeumo makes complete sense and I absolutely get it. I am taking a huge risk with Diogo Jota, but it doesn't help my team out in game week 7 because I still have issues with fixtures. If we get the news that Rico Lewis is starting, one move that I would feel inclined to do is actually selling Lewis Hall to Rico Lewis this week. What it will mean is that I can then start Rico Lewis ahead of Robinson, who I personally don't think will get a clean sheet away against Nottingham Forest. So I'm not actually then benching a player that I personally think offers any value this week. And what it will do as well is bring in a player that not only kind of covers myself for the wildcarders, but also brings in a player that I think long-term could be unbelievable value at 4.7 million. That will only be if we get the news that Rico Lewis is starting. Otherwise, I think I'll just roll with the team that I've got and then go into game week 7 with 2 free transfers and a little bit of flexibility with my team. Now, are there problems? 100% this week. As I mentioned, I don't have any Arsenal defensive coverage, which is a huge issue, and I could just resolve that. I could do Robertson to Gabriel and sleep well at night. But again, when we're taking a look at the transfer planner for my team, now again, forget about people wildcarding. If I said to you right now, Robertson away against Wolves, Gabriel at home against Gabriel at home against Leicester, 100% Gabriel is a better pick. But could Robertson match Gabriel? Yes, I think Robertson could 100% match Gabriel this week. So for that reason, I just don't think it makes any sense doing Robertson to Gabriel, even though it is scary not having Gabriel, who could obviously score at any given set piece. But what I'm trying to say is, if I was to do Robertson to Gabriel, coming into game week 7, we still got huge issues in the team. We got Robinson, Smith Rowe, Rodgers, all with difficult fixtures, and Jota, who could be a massive rotation risk. So I don't really want to put myself in a situation where I only have one free transfer and all I've done is a sideways move of a good player like Robertson to another good player like Gabriel. So that's the reason why I right now am just looking to roll my transfer or do a transfer that's actually going to benefit me in game week 7. Would you play Matoma or Madueke or take a hit for Semenyo? I'd be very inclined to start Matoma, to be honest with you, if I had him. Madueke is a difficult one because I would love to start him this week, but I don't know if he is actually going to play because there is rotation afoot in this Chelsea team. But because Pedro Neto started midweek for Chelsea in the EFL Cup, I probably would actually say to you, start Madueke if you own him. Yes, I would start Madueke. Slanky and Lewis or DCL and Gvardiol. I personally would go for Solanke and Lewis, probably. But of course, you are taking a slight risk of minutes with Rico Lewis. Would you recommend Sells as a goalkeeper and another 4.5 minute defender? Yes, Sells I think is absolutely locked in. I think Sells has probably been massively overlooked. So yes, Sells is a great pick for your teams. Salah to Saka, Mitoma to Mbeumo, and Nico Williams to Gabriel, or do the same but Jackson to I wouldn't be selling Jackson at all with the upcoming fixtures that he does have. Salah to Saka, I don't mind it, but I actually think Salah's a brilliant pick this week. I don't love Jackson to Avinilson and Nico Williams to Gabriel. I mean, the transfers that you're making in the first section are good, but only if they're free transfers. Otherwise, I wouldn't even consider those moves. So I think Salah could do well. Mitoma could do okay against this Chelsea defence. And obviously, Nico Williams up to Gabriel is obviously an upgrade. Avenilson to Southampton is a brilliant fixture, yes. I just want to see a little bit more from him before we even consider him as an FPL option. Yes, I do think that Harvey Barnes is an okay pick, but would I be investing in Newcastle right now with their fixtures? The answer is going to be no. I think there's something definitely afoot in that Newcastle team. Right, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up there. I do apologise I can't go up until the deadline, but I do have to do a TikTok live. So thanks so much for tuning in. As always, if you enjoyed it, make sure you do smash that subscribe button. Massive shout out again to those that did drop a super chat. Really appreciate you, Charlie and David. Thank you so much once again. As I said, the plan is to roll the transfer. If we get news that Rico Lewis starts, I could be inclined to do Lewis Hort to Rico Lewis. If I can, I will post the team in the community section. But if you also want to check it out, make sure you head over to TikTok. I will update you on that live stream there as well. Have an amazing game week, guys. I will see you Sunday evening where I'll either do a video with my transfer plans or a live stream. Either way, you're going to want to make sure you stick around for that because it could either be the best game week ever or I'm 90% sure it is going to be a terrible game week and I'm going to have a massive red arrow with loads of managers wildcarding. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Have a great game week. We'll talk real soon and just enjoy your weekend in general, guys. Have a good one. Cheers.